Amrit Bhai. We were all there in WPA, and it's a real pleasure to see you all. When I talk about Thursday musings, like it's something which we all want to be. It is something which we all find very useful, whether it be our day-to-day practice or learning something. The speakers are wonderful, the chairpersons are wonderful, and the whole conduct of the program, well, less said the better. So we are celebrating the World Autism Month. Autism is an illness which has severe impact not only on an individual but the family, the whole society. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of stigma, a very poor awareness about this illness, and even more difficulty in terms of treatment. We are very resource oriented country, but we have very poor resources in terms of treatment of mental illnesses. There is a huge gap, and we all know how difficult or struggle the parents feel when they are having a children who suffers from autism. Applied behavior analysis is a technique that has been used for a long time, and I believe it is gaining more and more traction in terms of treatment of autism. We do know that the core deficits a person has is in terms of communication and learning, and there applied behavior analysis can have a significant impact. It can improve the positive behaviors and help decrease the negative behaviors in an individual, and thereby help them to integrate within the society. I think we are very privileged to have someone like Dr. Srinivasan Venkatesan to talk about this. And I would request my co-chair, Dr. Vivek Agarwal, to sort of add on and introduce him. But again, a big thank you to Team Musings for giving me this opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay. Let me introduce the speaker. Dr. Srinivas Venkatesan is a retired Dean Research Professor and Head Department of Clinical Psychology, All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysore, Karnataka. He also served earlier at NIPID, Secunderabad. He had written 30 books, 160 research articles, and conducted large number of workshops. He is an alumnus of NIMHANS, Bangalore, and he taught postgraduate students and guided many research. He had received large number of awards. To name few, the Psycho Oration Award in 2019, Professor Anima Sen Memorial Award 2012, and so we have a highly acclaimed researcher among us, and let's hear him about the applied behavior analysis. Professor Venkatesan, please.
Please stop the slide so that Dr. Venkatesan can go ahead. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Venkatesan.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you can start now.
Yeah. Good evening to one and all. And I deem it's a great fortune for having been invited to this kind of a prestigious narrative that is going on in the Psychiatric Society. And that too, this time the focus is on ABA and ABA for children with autism, a very revolutionary topic, I would say. And we are going to talk today about current status and practical applications. What I will do is, I'll just give you an outline now for a few minutes on what I propose to do in this next 1 hour. ABA, full form is Applied Behavior Analysis. So 3 terms are very important here: applied, behavior, and analysis. First, let us take the keyword behavior. Behavior in normal parlance is little different from what is understood as behavior in ABA, or for that matter in psychology. Behavior generally we think is any action, but it's not so. Behavior in ABA is measurable, observable action. This is a very important definition you should understand. Otherwise, you would admit every kind of behavior as behavior, and which is the mistake be happening all around. Behavior is only observable and measurable action. I'll get into some examples later. There is also, you should know what is behavior and not behavior. Non-behaviors are not a subject of applied behavior analysis. For example, angry. Many people think angry is a behavior. Sorry, ABA doesn't believe angry is a behavior. Whereas in anger, throwing things is a behavior. Why? Because in throws things, something which is observable and measurable. You can observe somebody throws things. 3 things he threw in 13 minutes. 2 slaps he gave me on my face in 1 hour. So that is observable and measurable. So this is the key of behavior in ABA. And anger is not a behavior because you can't count it. You can't measure it. If you measure also, it is subjective. So first, all of you should very be clear on observable and measurable actions are alone behavior. The next key word is analysis. By analysis, we mean splitting, cutting into parts. Any behavior has to be cut into parts, and that is the merit of science also. Science is also analytical. So also ABA being scientific is also analytical, splits into. How do they cut the behavior? They cut the behavior into 3 parts: antecedent, behavior, consequence. That is, they assume every behavior is preceded by an antecedent, followed by a consequence. For example, child says mama. Mama gives chocolate. Child says mama is one, and followed by the behavior mama giving chocolate. That's a consequence. We'll come to more examples later. So I hope you understand. You call me for this lecture and I deliver this lecture. After this lecture, I hope and pray some of you appreciate me. What a beautiful lecture. So the antecedent, behavior is evident. Consequence, let us wait and see what happens. So 3 things are there. Every behavior. You smile at me, a beautiful girl smiles at me. I smile back at her. So then this is an antecedent behavior. I smile at the girl and the girl slaps me. That is a consequence. So these are examples of antecedent. So if you look at every behavior, there should be observable, measurable action. The last thing we are talking of is applied. Behavior analysis applied to where? Applied to autism is one. Of course, that is becoming very popular, I should say, over popular and wrongly popular. But applied behavior analysis is not only applied to autism, to many, many conditions, which I will cover now. And you should be also clear when, where, how, who should not be using ABA. That is also very important, because I find all and sundry, everybody is talking of ABA. Whomever I meet, they say, you try ABA, and it's becoming popular and it became a money spinning event also. So it should be very clear at the end of this webinar, what is ABA and what is not ABA. Then there are also issues related to ABA practice in autism, where I would like to highlight that the official definition of autism is also a lot of doubts are there. If we have a separate webinar, I will address that. That's one of my pet topic. Autism is the most confused topic, I would say. From the beginning in the history of autism, you find it's thoroughly misunderstood till today. Till now, neurodevelopment disorder, new term has also come, and everybody is confused of what is autism. There are myths surrounding the increased prevalence. One says everyday prevalence and incidence of autism is increasing. Really, are they increasing? Or is it the diagnostic substitution that has reduced the prevalence of mental retardation, old term, and now autism is, so everybody wants their children to be called autism and not mental retardation. We'll not talk about this in this seminar, but one separate day, if you like, you call me, I'll read. Commercialization, commodifying of this disorder is something which is seriously happening. For a big business agenda is there, that I will tell in some other way. Pseudo-autism, we never talk about. That's another. Changing diagnostic nomenclature understanding the causes and correlates. What are the levels of evidence available on this? These are all very important topics. I love to cover all that, but not today. It's not possible. Today, I will restrict only to the concept of ABA. ABA, coming back to ABA. ABA, as I said earlier, ABC, a behavior has an antecedent and it is followed by a consequence. And it's a scientific approach for understanding the human actions in observable, measurable terms, or in terms of the antecedents and the consequences. And this approach has become very popular for wrong or good reasons, mainly because of autism. And if people feel autism and AB are synonymous, which is not so. Okay, coming to this observable and measurable actions, let me give some more examples. Hits others is an observable, measurable behavior. Why? As I said earlier, you can count. You can count how many times, unit time, how many frequency. Buttons clothing is an observable measure. He can button 3 buttons, or you say in 2 minutes, or it take 10 minutes. So copies a square is an observable. Whereas naughty, the child is very naughty, mother says, that's not a behavior. And if they come with a complaint of naughtiness, please don't say ABA can be used for that. That's not an observable measure. That's a description of a behavior. So behavior, when we talk in ABA, there are 2 types of behavior: positive behavior, negative behavior, or skill behavior, problem behavior. Already you would have seen the examples. Skill behaviors are something you teach, children learn, whereas problem behaviors are something you decrease. The another classification is also asset behavior, deficit behavior, excess behavior. Asset means it is something the child has an asset. We want to teach the child. We should see that the child copying a square, as I said, is an asset behavior. Saying a nursery rhyme is an asset behavior. Saying good morning or wishing others is asset behavior. Deficit behavior is he cannot do it. He cannot wash himself after the toilet. It's a deficit behavior. Excess behavior is doing more than. He has to sit in some place for 1 minute, but he sits there for 2 hours and doesn't get up. That's an excess behavior. Or he sits and rocks his body again and again, many, many times. That's it. So all behaviors can be classified in these 3 terms. Now let us see more deeply what are skill behavior. Skill behaviors help us in adjustment with yourself as well as with others. Skill behaviors are age appropriate or situation appropriate. And a child, for example, sucking thumb is very age appropriate at 2 years. A child sucking thumb at 12 years is not age appropriate. Facilitates teaching, learning. So skill behavior has to be taught. It is adaptive in nature and it meets the demands of everyday living. So all these are skill behaviors. This is the focus of teaching. When it comes to autism also, children have to be taught skill behaviors, problem behaviors. Now let's come to the next. Problem behavior. What's a problem behavior? Problem behavior is something which is harmful to oneself or others. Bangs himself, hits others. It causes stress on others. Mummy's hair is being pulled every now and then by the child. It causes stress on her because her hair is being pulled. She is being pinched, causes stress on her. It is age or situation inappropriate, not appropriate to that situation. Yawning in a classroom may be inappropriate behavior. Situation B. Interferes in teaching. The teacher wants to teach the child coloring. The child throws the color pencils on the teacher's face, and that's an inappropriate interference. So these are all problem behaviors. Now, let me pause and tell you, ABA has become very popular, but ABA has got so many names. It has got several synonyms. I wonder why those terms did not become popular. I would prefer those words also become popular. ABA is also known as behavioral engineering, behavior therapy, clinical behavior analysis, behavior modification, but for some reason, we put those words away and we are only stuck to this ABA, and there are reasons for that. There are also variants of ABA, for example, acceptance and commitment therapy. behavior medicine, community reinforcement approach and family training, integrative behavior couple. Like this, there's a huge list of names, which all are variants. And we never talk of those variants. We only think of AB as one and the same, which is not so. And each one is different. All said and done, ABA is used for two purposes. One is for acquiring skills, two is for decreasing problem behavior. And let me caution you, the formal starting of ABA started in 1968 with the Journal of ABA, and it is applied across fields like medicine, criminology, education, industrial safety, business, special education, mental health, and clinical psychology and human business. But we assume ABA is only part of psychological practice, which is wrong. Similarly, it is used for different diagnostic conditions like specific learning disorders, conduct disorders, in the intellectual disabilities, ADD or OCDs, borderline personality, you name it, there are many. But what happens, ABA has become synonymous with only autism. Okay, now we'll stop all the theory and come to the actual practical application. In ABA, one strong assumption is all behaviors are learned. The behaviorist does not believe in heredity. He does not believe in biology. He doesn't believe in neurotransmitters. He doesn't believe in medicines or giving drugs for treatment. ABA thoroughly believes it's a behavior caused by certain antecedents and consequences. It may be antecedent controlled behavior or it may be a consequence mediated behavior. You tune the antecedent or consequence, the behavior can be managed. This is a simple logic. Any child has a behavior problem or skill behavior, shortcoming or deficit or excess, we believe that that behavior is because of an antecedent induced happening or a consequence related thing. Find out what. If it's antecedent induced, correct the antecedents. If it's a consequence based, correct the consequence and the behavior shall become. No need for medicine, no need for gene therapy, no need for any oxygen therapy, none of those esoteric treatments are not believed in by ABA. Strictly speaking, we believe in only manipulation and the regulation of the behavior. And the benefits, why the behavior is learned or how it is learned, we believe what happens after a behavior is very important. Here I'll give you a small example. A baby or child says, mama, that's the behavior. After that behavior, the mommy picks up the child, followed by the behavior, mama, the mommy picks up the child. And the child likes being picked up. So what he will do, next time he wants the mommy to pick up, he will say, mommy. Again, she'll pick up. And thus a cycle or a chain is established. Mummy picking up, mummy picking up. Now imagine the opposite. The child says mummy and mummy gives him a slap on the face. No mummy will do that, I know, unless she is a stepmother. But otherwise, if there's a slap on the face, will he say mummy? He will not. And the behavior will drop down. So you can see what happens after the behavior is a very critical event. The negative consequences of not performing that behavior is very critical. So the both good behavior and bad behaviors are learned. I reiterate, we do not believe in heredity, biochemistry, organic, all this is not important for a behaviorist. Okay, enough of further more theory. I'll come to a practical example because you intended my talk to be practical and try to show you how ABA is applied in a given case. I've taken one of my examples. The name is different. I'm not given the name. Here is a 6.5-year-old student of UKG, first case name. The parents came to me. According to the father, the list of problems he gave was, does not follow a schedule, does not share things. According to the mother, does not obey commands, does not write neatly, demands for things. According to grandparent, cries, or rather the child doesn't cry, the parents make him cry. Does not sit in one place, disturbs other children, demands to go for toilet frequently. Now you can see from this list that each one has got a separate list. The child is one and the same, but the list of problems noted and informed by them is totally different. The problem starts here. The difference starts here. ABA starts here. So when you come across children, ask the various informants separately, not in front of each other. Otherwise, the dominant person will say everything and not allow the mother to speak. You ask separately, independently, you will get different versions. That itself will show that disagreement is the cause of the behavior problem. So this is the first step you should observe. Simple, straightforward, common sense. Now, similarly, what are the techniques they follow? I ask the same parents. Mother, what do you do when he throws all that behavior? Mother says she instructs him repeatedly. She hits him. She yields to his demands. She becomes silent. She pacifies him, scolds him, compels the child, leaves him to his wishes, and complains to others. These are the techniques used by the mother for that observed behavior problem. What does the grandmother do? She gives him a candy secretively because in front of the father she cannot give. And she begs or pleads the child to behave well. Grandfather says he smiles and scolds the parents, not the child. She takes him out. What does the school do? For the same behavior, they threaten to phone the parents. They make him stand out. They threaten not to send him back home. See what you observe here? The difference in the techniques used by the four categories of people. Perception of the problem behavior itself is different. Management of the problem behavior is different by the four stakeholders. And this is a strong ground for why behavior problems can continue in such a child. No big degree of science is required to understand this. You do this trial in your cases, spend 1/2 an hour again with the child and try an experiment by studying this way. I'm sure you will find all the differences that are happening in this. Then another case, just to give you more authentication of what I am saying, the list of problem behaviors for an 8-year-old girl given was bangs head, hits self, makes peculiar sounds, grinds teeth, laughs to self. But you make a note of what the language I am using. Nowhere I am using non-observable, non-measurable words. Keep a note of that. Don't forget my first statement. Bangs head, observable, measurable. Hits self. Nowhere I have written mischievous, naughty, or aggressive. Such words, if you write, they are not behavior and they cannot come under the purview of behavior therapy. Laughs to self. So these are all countable. Then once you made the list of problem behavior, then you should identify a therapeutic agent because you found 4 people give 4 different responses. So you decide who will be the therapeutic agent, the teacher, the therapist, the mother, the grandfather, or who? Because too many cooks spoil the broth. It is like preparing a recipe. When you prepare a recipe, even chief cook should be there. If all of them act like cooks, then the recipe is bound to get damaged. Then in this list, you should prepare a reward list. For a given child, you should make a reward. What are the things which make him do better? What is a reward? Rewards are things or events which are liked by the child and which makes that behavior to happen again and again. Giving a candy is a reward. Why? Because it's an edible thing and children like it. Giving a color book is a reward for some children who enjoy coloring. Clapping hands can be a social reward. So reward. So we have a rewards checklist also by which you can find out which reward works with what child. And no 2 children will have the same rewards working. So this is a very individualized thing. Then target one behavior problem at a time. The child may have 8 behavior problems, but you can't assume and start working on all the 8. Take only one, as I have taken here, bank's head. Then you have to create a baseline. Very rigid work. Baseline. How many times he banks it? 4 to 5 times in 45 minutes. Where? During therapy, in the mall, at home. Where he does not do, in front of father, he doesn't do that. With whom he does, in front of clinician, mother, grandparents. When she does, when mother is not attending to her, she does. When she does not do, when playing with ball or singing rhymes or having food, no behavior problem is noticed. Such a behavioral observation has to be made. That is what is the key to ABA. Next. In front of parents, you find the behaviors I've listed here: shouts, pushes, kicks, scratches, etc. Before others, slaps, screams, pushes, throws. At school, it is still another deal. See, in this, what I'm trying to explain is the behaviors will vary from place to place, person to person, time to time. So it makes the whole issue complicated. It's not like textbook fashion that you find a behavior and it will be common. Cries means cries behavior will be not applicable everywhere. Cries may be there in front of mother. It may not be there in front of father. It may not be there in front of a particular uncle. It may not be there in the night. It may be there in the road. So you should know all that very clearly. When it is happening, when denied something, when he cannot verbalize, he cannot ask. So these are all the details you should note down. Next. And how each one handles, make a chart of that also. What everyone does to handle this behavior. I've made a list here. There is one more key point you should also note here, apart from how they handle and all. You ask the parents, why do you think the child is behaving like this? One straightforward question, mommy, tell me, what makes you think he is behaving or she is behaving like this? The mother, one mother has given me, I have written here, because doctors have told she is having autism, that's why she is behaving. This is a very wrong notion. Child has autism, so she must have a behavior problem, is a very totally wrong notion. Not all the autistic children will have behavior problem, or behavior problem is not synonymous to autism, but still many. No, he is having MR, no, mentally retarded. This फुद्दू है इसलिए ऐसे कर रहा है. So it's not like that. Or this is wrong notion, presumption which makes them to think like that. Because he has reduced intelligence or there is a decreased brain. One mother told me this child is having a Krishna dosha. We went to the family guru. The guru said he is having a Krishna dosha. That is, baby Krishna has entered his body. And that is why a bada natpad ho gaya hai. So then he keeps on troubling people and all. And he has to be given dahi or curds regularly so that the Krishna dosha is removed. That's the treatment she believes. And such a mother, what can I talk of behavior therapy? Because she believes there is a magical treatment which will work. So first I must work on clearing the deck there. So these are very intricate, small details, which I think unless you spend time with the child, the parents, it cannot be understood. And a behavioral formulation cannot be arrived at. And each behavior has got certain functions. The techniques also, just outline I'm giving, but we have very many techniques, nearly 40, 50 techniques in applied behavior analysis. Differential reward. What is differential reward? Rewarding the non-occurrence of a problem behavior. We always keep on punishing the child for occurrence of a problem. When the child does not throw a tantrum, we simply keep quiet. Rather, I would prefer the mummy calls the child, see, since 1 hour I am observing you did not throw one tantrum. Here, take this chocolate. You have not hit me or pulled my hair for the whole of the afternoon. Here, let's go out for a walk. So that means the non-occurrence of the behavior has become the source for rewarding. But we wait for the child to throw a tantrum and then run after him and shout at him. Behavioral counseling is important. As I said, if there are misconceptions, that has to be corrected. So simultaneously, along with problem behavior assessment and training, skill training is also part of ABA. This is often ignored. One side, you will have to balance by reducing problem behaviors on priority. 2, you have to work on skill training. That is also some examples I will give you later. Now, there are steps in what you call behavioral management. I'm just listing briefly here. We may not have time to go in detail. If we want in discussion, we'll come back. We have to identify the problem behavior, list them, prioritize them, select the rewards, then select the behavior problem, one behavior problem for intervention, make a baseline of that behavior problem, when, where, with whom, perceptions about what do they think about the problem behavior, where it is happening, why it is happening, etc. Then we have to select the technique and use them and then correct. So such a big algorithm is there when it comes to ABA. Mind-boggling, isn't it? Three critical questions I've been saying we must ask. When you come across children with the problem behavior, first you list the problem behavior, no wonder. Then you must also ask them, what do you think is the reason or cause of the behavior problem? Not the right answer or wrong answer. As a parent, what do you think is the cause of problem behavior? Then you ask the third question, what are the techniques you are using to combat that problem here? I'll give you some example, very interesting answers I've got. When I ask this question, what do you think is the cause of problem here, which you'll also get, many parents told me some child-centered causes. Because of the primary condition, he is mentally retarded and that's why he's doing like that. Because he's having autism, he's misbehaving, which is wrong again. Because of some psychological illness, they said, or many said because of some psychological trauma or physical trauma. When he was 6 months old, he fell down from the cot, and since then he's become like this. They're connecting to a remote event. Some said mood fluctuates. If he's in a good mood, he will behave well. If he's in a bad mood, he will not behave well. So mood comes first and the behavior problem comes later, or vice versa, we don't know. Some people feel it's natural for kids to misbehave. There's nothing much we can do about it. Some said they do it for attention seeking. Some said behavior problem because of heredity. The father तो ऐसे ही बड़ा गुस्से वाला है, तो same temperament will come to the child. So heredity is different. Some more causes they told me, parent-centered. Many parents told maybe the problem is with us. We don't know how to parent him. Both of us are working. And some gave magico-religious causes. Because a Vastu expert has told us that the toilet is in the kitchen's place and the kitchen is in the toilet's place. That's why all the behavior problem in the child. So you have to break and rebuild the house. Then his behavior problems will become all right. A mother strongly believes that, and she tells me, then how would I go about doing ABA? Environment-centered cause. Some parents said because of boredom, because of poor models. The neighbor children, he is watching them and learning all these things from him. Ever since he is going to the park, he sees all the problem children there and learns all that and comes home and does that. No opportunity. That's why these are the perceptions of the parents. Then how they manage a report, how do you manage? I asked that question. I have a big list here, very interesting, some of them. You also will get such interesting answers. Do a research and find out for each case. One said they will reward the problem. When he cries, we give a chocolate. When he cries, we yield to his demands. When he cries, we'll promise and tell him to give a later. Sometimes we change the environment in favor of the child. We take the child away from there and take him somewhere else. Some child, we will just resign and wait for the child to mend his ways. Some said they will put on TV and play music, which he likes. Some said they will make him fall asleep. Some said they will coax, cajole, convince, console, hug, love, lecture. Some said they nag, behave properly. Some use start techniques, they said. You have a big list here. Later, if you want, you can take this PowerPoint and read all that, or I'll give you my published papers on this. You will get a big, interesting list. The list, if you go through, there are nearly 40 of them, and you find one extreme, they over pamper the child. At the other extreme, they over punish the child. The same child, the same parents. So they are desperate. They don't know how to handle. So one extreme, they keep giving chocolates and biscuits, carrying him, loving him, pampering him. At the same extreme, the same parents are also locking him in the room, branding him, or shouting at him, hitting him, etc., or physically tying him out, etc., or blackmailing, like one grandmother used to say, if you behave like this, I will die. And the grandmother son would say, no, grandma, don't die. And if I have to not die, behave properly. This is an emotional blackmail she used to do. So make an analysis. According to ABA, we believe all problem behaviors have happened mainly because of these 4 functions, rather 5 functions. 1, attention seeking. 2, self-stimulation. 3, skill deficits. 4, escape function. 5, tangible reward. Just to secure negative or positive attention, it's self-explanatory. When they have nothing to do, they will do. That is called self-stimulation. The severely mentally challenged child keeps on rocking. Why? Because he has to stimulate himself. Summer vacation, children have more problem behavior because they have to self-stimulate. When there was corona, more behavior problems were there because their hands and legs were tied down. They couldn't do anything. Skill deficits. When they can't ask for a ball, they'll snatch a ball because he lacks the communication skill of asking for a ball. Escape. He wants to escape the burden of something, he will behave in such a way. So you analyze what amongst these 5 functions is causing that particular. All the causes which I listed earlier are not true. They are perceived, but not real. Whereas the 5 analysis you should arrive at. This requires quite a bit of expertise on your part to correctly identify, and you can do it if you have samples. You collect examples of a child, where he behaves, when he behaves, how many times he behaves. Make a diary. All this is quite a bit of hard work, which parents have to do, you have to do, the therapist has to do. Are you prepared for all that? Is a very key question. There is to make things easy, we have developed what is called as a problem behavior survey schedule. If you want, I can send it across. The reference is also given there. It is published, where a 100-item ready-made problem behavior survey schedule is there, where all the 100 behavior problems are listed objectively in measurable, observable terms. So simply you have to keep this list and tick. Present, absent, present, absent. The various categories are given there, and you can make things easy for you to identify the problem behavior. Now I've done a bit on problem behaviors. Quickly, we'll go to the skill behavior. In skill behavior also, the big algorithm is there. As in problem, we generally forget that that is a compartment, this is another compartment. And sometimes they are intermixed also. In skill behavior training also, very clear-cut steps are there. How you identify the skill deficits, and then how do you set goals? How do you set smart, measurable, achievable goals in a relevant time frame? And then what are the rewards you will give for them? What are the activities you have to choose for that? Then arrangement of the rewards, baseline, all this. I think you must have a workshop separately on skill training steps, which is worth it if you are ready to do that. Skill training inputs must be different in different areas. Sensory area, fine gross motor area, play area. This corona has seen especially a big insult to social, play and communication area. In my recent observations, I have noticed in a published paper, social, play and communication areas are most affected during the COVID time. And that is what an environment induced. And they are all brought to us by saying they're autism, but they are not. Next is, you should not look at these as compartmentalized. You should look at the development age. At what age, what behavior is there? A 2-year-old child throwing tantrums is totally different from an 8-year-old child throwing a tantrum. And a 12-year-old child, a 2-year-old child throwing a tantrum is normal, natural, correct. It's age appropriate. Whereas a 12-year-old child throwing a tantrum has to be studied. So like that, we can look into the age appropriateness of. Now let us go to one example of skill behavior. Many are there in my list. I have got nearly thousands of them. I've just taken between 1 to 3 years. Eye contact. This is one thing commonly people come and say, my child is not having eye contact because he is having autism. Not because of autism, because eye contact training requires separate analysis. And the analysis is for a child to learn or develop eye contact, you look at the red notes there, he must have eye fixation. He must develop eye localization, scanning, tracking, permanence, figure ground relations. Is all, each one has got one particular meaning. And I analyze each child and see where is the problem. Is the problem in fixation or turning to the head source of the sound or light, gazing intently? I've given the list here. Where is the drawback? And these are all age appropriate. And now this 3-year-old child has not crossed any of these steps. And definitely he'll have eye tracking problem. Definitely he'll have eye contact problem. So you start from where he is stuck. From there, if you find a child still eye gaze is missing, start from there. If you find the child having tracking problem, start from there. So accordingly, your program should be tailor made to that step where he is there. Another example that is about eye contact. Similarly, with money matters, we have a huge list of steps. So I will give you a list of this reference I am giving you, which is available in our website also, ICE website. We have made a toy kit for kids with development disability, and a user manual is available. And this one will give you the list of what are the things to be taught to children with developmental disability. Then we have also prepared an autism behavior checklist, which is also published in psychological studies. And that is also, these are all ready-made lists. We have also got a ready-made list of 400 activities called Activity Checklist for Preschool Children with Developmental Disability. These are age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. And we have 3 versions of it for infants, toddlers, preschoolers. And it is a do-it-yourself home made tool which you can develop for children. So which means a lot of homework needs to go into training these children. Just by sending them for 45 minutes to a ABA specialist, one cannot expect the child will become all right in 2 weeks or 40 sessions. That's the point I'm trying to reiterate again. And the activities you choose should be based on these. It should be play-based, not book-based. It should be learner-based, not curriculum-based. It should be child-initiated, not teacher-initiated. It should be activity-based, not concept-driven. So all these are important rules in how to fix your goals. And in skill training technique, each of this requires a thorough explanation. But I'm just taking quick overview of this. Skill training can be done by task. Task analysis is take the objective, split it into small parts. Each part is trained separately, individually, one by one. Then you go to the next. Same way prompting, shaping, chaining, fading. Now, no time to go into all this, but these are the techniques for skill training. Behavioral contracting. You do this, you get this. Don't do this, you don't get it. Kind of a contract. Peer reward technique. So like this, several techniques are there in ABA. But what be the technique? What every practitioner should understand is you begin your ABA first by a compliance training. Take those behaviors that the child can do and will do and cooperate. Then you go to the behaviors which he cannot do. Don't start with something he cannot do. The child will develop animosity towards you. He will not come to the session or to you. What he can do. So take that, what he likes doing. First establish the rapport over number of sessions. Then go to the what he cannot do. And when you give rewards, there are very important rules to be followed. When you give a reward, you should be clear. Tell why the reward is being given. Tell every time consistently. Just telling one time in the morning, not telling in the afternoon won't work. Constancy. Give a reward or punishment immediately. So the child does something good, say good, you have done that, reward immediately. He does something bad, punishment should be immediate. And the child does a bad behavior or throws a tantrum, the mommy says, let your papa come in the evening, I'll complain to him. Papa comes in the evening and he had a behavior problem in the morning, that's not immediacy. So the rules of giving reward. So golden rules, never reward a problem behavior, tempting though it is. Never beg, bargain with the child. Never use physical punishments or spanking. Catch them doing good rather than stopping bad behaviors. Reward non-occurrence of problem behaviors. Avoid comparisons, although well-intentioned. Your brother is so good, your sister is so good, you're not doing. If you say such thing, never the behavior problem can be handled. Desist from helicoptering. This is a very, very important thing. Parents have become so much into it that they keep on hovering around the child, on the top of the head of the child. Do that, study this, don't do that. You don't give them any space at all. And that's something you have to really look into. Realize that there are no quick fixes in ABA. ABA is not simplistic solutions. ABA, you should understand, is not a simple, straightforward prescription. For a headache, you give an analgesic, it's not like that. Or for vomiting, you give an antiemetic, it's not like that. So it's not a recipe book approach. One size does not fit in all and at all times. That is why the ABA has to be, specialist has to be trained. Teamwork is also very important between the carers, teachers, therapists, all the stakeholders. Now, I would like to reiterate one more point which I said in the beginning. ABA has got many variants. DTT is one variant. Second, EIBI, Early Intensive Behavioral Intervention, is another variant which is for below 5-year children. 3, we have another form of behavior called pivotal response treatment. 4th variant is what is called as Early Start Denver Model, ESDM. Few more variants are there. And for each of this, you must have a separate workshop, mind you, I will tell you that. Verbal behavioral intervention is one more thing. Functional communication training is another thing. PECS is another thing. Now, when you meet a ABA specialist, ask them which of this you have specialized. Which course have you undergone? Which one you passed? Show me your certificate. And then you will know the real color. Now, ABA training and certification is a very formal thing. Let me clarify to you. There are different levels, different types. I've just listed here. These are official. BCBA, BCABA, CAS, an autism certificate. And in India, sad to say, none of the so-called ABA specialists are trained or certified like this. You ask them to show their certificate. I bet by year, hardly very, very few people will be there who have done. If they have done also, one of them would have got done maybe abroad. They come and train a couple of their own assistants and claim the whole institute runs the show. Only one person maybe that certified thing for 6 months or 1 year, they would have done the course. And they claim the whole the center itself is run by a ABA program, which is not correct, not ethical. Now, ABA history is also not very smooth. We have a lot of horror stories in ABA practice. Sorry, I'm giving all grim picture, but the truth is something we should realize. For example, there have been ADHD children who have been tied with banklets and made them to stop their overactivity. Then they had to be stopped. There have been screens used to see that such children calm down. So traumatic events have happened. Now in the contemporary scenario, what has happened for some reason, which I can explain later, autism has got linked with AB. And that is also partly because of the reimbursement policy that has gone into autism when you use ABA in the West. And thanks to Microsoft particularly, somebody said Bill Gates is having Asperger's syndrome. And Bill Gates said, whoever is having children with Asperger's syndrome, I will reimburse their medical expenses. Very good cause. And all the parents started looking for an ABA specialist and looking for autism certification for the children. And whoever were lucky enough to get that, they got the reimbursement. India, it also, and you can see the boom here. But are they all ABA or are they all autism? Is something every mental health professional must seriously contemplate. And we must have enough number of seminars on this and just don't run blindly into the bandwagon. That's popular. Everybody wants their child to be called autism. You ask parents, would you want to like your child to be called mentally retarded? Preferably not. They would rather want a certificate of autism than in my younger days or in peak days when I was in the NIMH, we rarely used to, you also might know youngsters, when we were youngsters, no mental retard, no autism cases were seen. I still remember in Nimans when H.S. Narayan was the king of mental retardation, hardly one or two cases in a year we used to say with autism. Today, the autism spectrum has become so wide and MR has become so less. This we call it as diagnostic substitution. Is it that our diagnosis have changed or is the autism increase happened? Please reflect on this. Just don't run into the bandwagon. And COVID, as I said, has made things worse. Our special children hardly understand any of the COVID rules. Social distancing, they don't understand. Washing hands again and again, they don't understand. Mixing or not mixing with people, they don't understand. And they are threatened by insecurity, children not playing with them, and their behavior problems increase. Stimming behaviors increase. Then we say, again, there are. And in the US, they are paid very highly. How can we afford that much for each session of autism children? Think over it. Evidence-based practice, ABA is considered in the US. Which form of ABA is evidence-based practice is not clearly known. I already told 5-6 types are there that you have to check and see. So there are undisclosed conflicts of interest. If you're researchers, you should understand these points. So which one of them is there? Movies have played a very important role in the popularizing of autism and ABA. As you all know, Rain Man was one movie which brought about autism into the forefront. That was because Rimland, the American psychologist and the founder of the Autism Research Institute, had an ulterior interest. Somebody told his son was autism. He got very angry. He said, how my 4 children, only one child can be autism, while the other 3 are, no, your wife is having a refrigerated mother. He said, not possible. She is the mother for all the 4 children, but only one child has become autism. She was dead against the refrigerated mother concept that time. Then he said, no, not refrigerated mother. It is because of the vaccines. Vaccines have caused autism. And you all know the history of autism, where MMR became the culprit. Later, Lancet also decried this, and this was retracted. And then the story of MMR came to an end. Now, AB has got a lot of such kind of political issues also. I'm not going to all this. Who are the big names? The Genome Project came in 1990s. And with it, the term autism also changed again. Now we are talking of NDD. Why? Because we want to convert the whole thing into a genetic issue. And now genetic issue, I'm sorry to say, it is like searching for a needle in the haystack. What is the cause? So-and-so gene, so-and-so number, so-and-so thing, so-and-so thing. You will never end up finding a particular gene. It's not like one particular thing. It's not like Down syndrome that so-and-so thing causes Down syndrome or Turner's. It's not so easy like that. And we keep on searching endlessly. So the NDD concept, how it is evolved. In India, the buzzword is, because of the West influence, I should say, that AP experts have sprung up like anything, whether they are trained, not trained, gone abroad, not abroad, or they have learned from them, or just watched them on online. I don't know. We have some big names here in India also. Neurogen, Brain and Spine Institute, Mumbai. Then they talk of stem cell therapy for autism, art therapy, aquatic therapy, sensory integration therapy, all sorts of therapy. Here are some names I've found in the net. Behavior Momentum India, Pinnacle in Hyderabad, other names, Indian Society for Applied Behavior Science. So many are there. The credentials is something the Psychiatric Society must take cudgels and observe, I think, both psychologists and how genuine they are is something that needs investigation if you are really wanting to study. There are also Indian websites like indiaparenting.com with mention EIBI for autism. Are they trained? There are ready-made articles. You see pictures of foreign children on the website, but they offer treatment for Indian children. So this is something I may be very curt in saying all that. And many of them are fly-by-night things. So what I summarize is there is no unanimity in the definition of autism or AB. There is an expanding criteria of autism also. There is increased public awareness. Is it improved case finding? And as I said, is there diagnostic substitution is something we have to really study. Where are all the mentally retarded gone and why is that autism has come more into the forefront? Then diagnostic inaccuracies is something needs to be investigated. Then how are uncritical logical conclusions? Here I'm just one slide on the causes also. This needs a separate workshop again. There are diet-based causes of autism, sensory-based causes of autism, neuroanatomy-based causes, obstetric, environmental. In fact, I found nearly 500 causes of autism in one study, from biological to environmental, and all these are the causes listed in literature. Or it is a multifactorial. Now, when will we keep on? How will we? So somebody said diet-based, they say stop giving GFCF or start using GFCF. Somebody says leaky gut and says there is a treatment for that. Somebody says sensory-based. So the search is going on, and this ABA is one among them. That's why my caution is a word of caution on pseudo-autism. We did a study in 2015 where I found the so-called cases of autism diagnosed in the file were actually expressive speech delays. Quite a few of them were intellectual disabilities or developmental disabilities. Quite a few of them were below average intelligence, conduct disorder, hearing impairment, reactive attachment disorders, and others like social anxiety, elective mutism, but they were not autism. But they were put all under the basket of autism. These are some scales in the West. Big list. In India also we have ISAA, very popular, but how effective one has to look into that. CDDC, then activity checklist, which we use in AISH, and A to E, autism behavior checklist for disability estimation. Now, one word about A to E, autism behavior checklist for disability estimation, where it has got 3 parts. 0 to 6 years is part A, 6 to 12 years is another part B, 12 to plus years is a part C. And each one has got different areas. And I told you for skill training, if you have this list of nearly 500 activity, your programming will be easier. If you are interested, you can email to you at my email address. So most of them are behaviorally based scales. Now we have also got in the institute play activity checklist with the more than 100 activities. Play is the best medium for teaching all children, whether they are autism or non-autism, all children, including healthy children, normal children also, so-called. So we have 100 item play activity checklist, and I'm sure if you try all this in this corona infested time, the best thing for the child. So the activity checklist is available in the given reference. So to conclude, there are far better things ahead than things can lead. Here are some of the books I have got. A manual for teachers. It is downloadable from the net. Child with Development. This is by Sage Publication, available at Amazon. There is another book on parenting, which is available on nearly 40 types of parenting, which has become, in which I've also mentioned about new forms of parenting as we see in the weekend parenting. Nowadays, weekends, there are parents. Whole week, the father is not there. In the weekend, he comes and parents. Or remote parenting. End of the week, the father will call from abroad and wants the children behave properly with the mother, or you're going to get a beating. Then the children will sit quiet. And once in a year, he comes and visits home and he gives all the things to the children. And the children will love the father more than the mother. And poor mother has taken care of the child for more than a year. And she gets the beating for not looking after them well. This book will give you case examples of such narratives. Toys and playing children, as I mentioned, is the under item play checklist. Here are some references. So, given time of 1 hour, I think I've exceeded 3-4 minutes more. Sorry for that. Now I'm open for more questions, which is more interesting than giving a lecture like this. And
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It was an elaborate presentation covering everything, touching upon everything. I think we need multiple sub sessions to actually get to the core of the matter.
exactly, that's
So,
the
so
point.
if you are aware,
And I think sir should be available.
the audience is demanding to you for you to come back already.
Definitely. In the micro topics.
Yeah. So over to chairpersons for their opening remarks.
Dr. Vivek Agarwal, do you want to start with that?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so it was a fantastic presentation as expected from the learned speaker, Dr. Srinivasan Venkatesan. It is a real pleasure to hear you, sir. Fortunately, I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Judith Gold when I was in Glasgow, and I received training in ADOS and DISCO and ABA. And I totally agree with what you say that here in India, everything and anything is called ABA, and it is more people trying to make money out of this due to lack of awareness and the fact that autism being a persistent and progressive disorder, parents here are very desperate. They can go and do anything and everything to get the child improved, and the whole thing is packaged in such a lucrative way that often people fall prey to that. I've heard, I wouldn't want to quote the money, but I've heard various packages being offered to miraculously change the child, and people are promised anything and everything under the sun by so-called ABA therapists. It was really a very, very wonderful lecture, to say the least. You have been very clear in your approach and your explanations. It is something which applied in a proper manner can and does make a difference, and which is persistent. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, there does remain a big, huge gap. And I really hope that this inspires people to take up this. And if really we have good therapists in terms of ABA, we can make a change. So again, a big thank you to Team Musings for inviting Dr. Srinivasan to talk upon this topic. It is something which is very close to my heart because I've worked for a long time in Glasgow Autism Center. So thank you again for asking me to be a chair of this session.
Any other observations?
Vivek sir, any observations from your side? Then we go to question answers.
There are some questions.
Yes, sir. Please take.
Yes, sir. We can take the questions then, if you allow.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, what we should try to do right now is stick to ABA. How is it done, and what is it? How does it act? What are the plus and minus of it? Okay, because I think ABA in autism is another subset. So we are possibly we'll talk more about ABA. So there are a few. One question was there, role of AI. So in ABA, what is the current role of AI? And let me add the apps, the other softwares that are available. So are they helping them, or any update on this, sir?
I did mention about evidence-based practice. I did mention about levels of evidence. What happens, anything that comes, whether it is AI or robotics or NEG, chatbot or whatever it is, we are enamored by it. and we take all that and give to the machine to lead the man. What is required is time spent by the parents with the child. Nowadays, parenting, in my book, I've mentioned this very important point. Parents have no time for the children. Whether it is autism or not is a secondary issue. Children, they have hardly any time. And whatever little time they hand over their gadgets to them, and they are relieved that at least the child is busy with something. And in between, when they come and disturb again, they feel that they should go to a therapist. So it is not so. Quality time has to be spent by parent, and each parent must touch their heart. I'm always finding fault. In fact, we can have one more webinar on where I'm for a diagnostic classification of parents. See, readily we diagnose children. When they come to me, immediately I call children having so and so disorder, behavior problem, conduct disorder. That have you ever diagnosed a parent? Poor parenting skills disorder. I would love to have one in your ICD or DSM where like you have learning disability and all, parenting disability disorder or something. I have a paper on that. If you want, I'll send it across. Maybe a webinar on that also will be appropriate, where I can say that parents have to be identified. If they are not appropriate parenting skill, we should find out that, diagnose them and give them psychoeducation or treatment. And they don't accept. It is easy to call the child, make them stand in front of us and say, find out what is the problem. But if I say there is a problem in you, they will tell me, rather than wanting to find out what is in them. And they become very defensive. I came to you with a solution for the child and you are finding fault with me. But actually, in many cases, the child is a symptom and the pathology is the parent.
Absolutely.
And where
Absolutely.
do we spend time for that? Where do we diagnose them? Where do we have classes for them? Where there is a parenting? Is there a UG or PG program on that? Have you put that as a course in your degree, or you learn foreign languages, you learn AI? I prefer you would rather learn this kind of thing. Basic parenting, how to feed children, how to look after children.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am reminded of the quote by Dr. Sheshadri sir. What he said, that child is the weakest link. So if there is a problem in the system, the weakest link gets affected first.
Exactly.
So that is the thing.
Yeah.
So there is a very Amrit, go ahead.
Sobit has asked a very good question. So I was talking about the diagnostic inaccuracies. So he wanted you to elaborate on the diagnostic inaccuracies we generally see.
Diagnostic inaccuracy is the faults or mistakes committed by the professionals in diagnosing cases. You start with an assumption that there is a problem in the child because he is the presentation now. So when the presentation is there and the child is being brought by somebody else, child does not come on his own. In fact, many cases where children have come, I used to ask them, what is the problem? There's a problem in my father. He is only pestering me all the time to study engineering, whereas I wanted to do psychology. He says, you study engineering, so you better treat my father rather than me. He used to tell me. So he comes to my college so often, he would have given attendance, he would have passed engineering rather than me. So what is happening is we are not looking into the children, and diagnostic inaccuracy starts there. We start, and if you come across a case where you are unable to diagnose, you become very jittery. How many times have you diagnosed NYD? I used to ask my colleague, NYD, no, wait for some time. We'll see after 3 months. We'll study some more thing. No, because the more longer the NYD is there, more anxiety disorder we become, the professional. Because somehow we must fix a label. Then we say, bah, ek naam to bana diya iske liye. And then that's where we are relaxed. So there can be conditions which need to wait, and autism is one among them. If it were your own child, would you diagnose that? Think of that. If it is somebody else's child, you would suppose there is a diagnosis of cancer on you. What would you do? You would take second opinion, third opinion, 30th opinion. But if it was a diagnosis of cancer on your neighbor, what would you do? You would immediately accept. Same way with our illnesses also. Schizophrenia in your own brother or sister, You will try to check again and again. May not be, maybe he is having this problem. We'll delay it or deny it. But when it comes to schizophrenia in your neighbor or somebody far distant person, immediately you recklessly and start prescribing medicines also. Same way for autism, think twice. Has the child been given the opportunity? Has the environment been made friendly? So many things. Is the school so? Everybody puts the pressure on the child. This is where I would like to introduce the concept of EBA, Echo Behavioral Analysis. If you want, I'll send you a paper on that also, where you have to study the ecology of the child. Along with the ABA, there is a EBA also. The ecology of the child, the family system, the social system, everything is very important. Starting from the micro family system to the macro society, the onus being on the child has to walk on a tightrope. And with all that, to come out with a NYD on the child is impossible. And that is something we must think again. And that's the lesson I hope we'll carry at the end of this talk. And commercialization, commodification of autism is growing like anything.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Commodification is actually going on for everything, I think, not only autism. So that is one issue.
True.
Sharda has a very practical question. Now that everybody already is well to do, almost, suppose we are talking in our circles. So where is the reward now? Because child has already access to almost everything. So what we should do? We should restrict things. We should not avail all many things, or how to do? Because the purpose of reward is defeated because already the child has access to anything. So what else you will reward?
Very good question. Reward, as I said earlier, I repeat, rewards are things or events which happen after behavior and which makes that behavior to happen again and again. This is the definition. Rewards are things or events which happen after a behavior and which makes that behavior to happen again and again. Opposite is punishment. Punishment are things or events which are noxious, which make that behavior to diminish. एक behavior को घटाता है, एक और एक को उठाता है, or one will increase the behavior, one will decrease the behavior. Now there are several rules of rewarding, which I had mentioned. Immediacy. Reward should be given to children then and there. He does something, he justifies the reward, give it then and there. Don't delay it. Otherwise, the reward potency is gone. 2, rewards will be given along with clarity. When you're giving a reward, tell a child, look, you are given this reward. You know why? Because you did this work. That's why you got this iPad. You're going out for a walk because you did this. If you're not going out for a walk today because you didn't do this. You cleaned your room. That's why you are given a rasgulla. So all this rewarding immediately, clarity, consistently. Rewarding one time in the morning and not in the afternoon. Rewarding by the grandfather, punishing by the grandmother. Rewards by the father, punishment by the mother. These rules, clarity, consistency, constancy, immediacy, 4 golden rules which I mentioned, are more important than the fact of reward. Plenty of rewards are there. How you dispense the rewards? Think on that. And rewarding the non-occurrence of the problem behavior is more important than punishing the problem behavior. Are we doing that? Don't give 20 number of things, not required. Only one thing is also enough. But look for what the reward the child looks for. And what he looks for and what you give doesn't match, then there is no.
Yes, so what Shata wants to add is the child already has access to all the material things. So then how to restructure the environment?
That accessibility is not scientifically done. Simply you throw away all the rewards in front of the child. You can take whatever you want. He's not earning the reward. That is not reward, that is bribery. And
so we have to stop this bribery there.
And that too is given before the occurrence of the behavior.
So some rationing has to be there when you provide things to your child.
Rules of rewarding is very important. You give a reward before the occurrence of the behavior, that is called bribery. And we are not for bribery. Never bribe a child.
So you might be rich, but don't bribe your child.
Exactly.
Okay.
So where does the line come, sir?
In this, richness is not the question or material. You indiscriminately, and because single child, probably some over affection or whatever be the reason, the parents really are not having rationing or proper justification. Without the child asking, only everything is given. And
Yeah,
what
in addition to the material rewards, the emotional things, the how you sit with the
How?
child,
exactly?
how you play with the child, how you are happy
Material
with it.
reward, social reward, activity reward, play reward. So many varieties of rewards are there.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Amrit.
so we have given a reward and we have been able to get a positive changes in a child, sir.
Definitely.
Sir, how long
But
and how do we withdraw these rewards?
there is rules of reward giving. There are rules of reward withdrawal. That is called fading. In ABA, there is a system called fading, where you have to step by step fade the reward giving and start from material reward, as you said, and go to social reward, and then you go to intrinsic reward. First, you give extrinsic rewards. Then, as the child improves, what happens is every time you can't be giving chocolate, biscuit, and all that. Every time you can't be buying things and costly thing. It should be a reward from inside. He should read a book because he loves reading. Not that I will get a chocolate, I read a book is not the question. First, you may have to start with that only. At the end of the day, he must love reading or start reading. But I enjoy reading books, which is what is the ultimate goal of your education also. So from extrinsic reward, you must, now this schema or the road map is somewhere lost. And we have confused everything and misleading the children. I hope I am clear in that.
Yeah. And so there is a very commonly asked questions, this issue of pseudo or virtual autism. These are coming up. Someone has also commented that it was more in the lockdown and high COVID times. Now it has died down a bit. So your views on that?
Yeah, I've already showed a publication of mine on pseudo autism, and I will send it across. Or you give my email ID to them. I will send that publication. I've given several examples of pseudo autism cases, and as you rightly said, COVID time was one time where pseudo autism cases were spurting like anything, but now it is coming down. But still, that is, you label a condition in spite of it not being anywhere near to autism, and it is there because it's a matter of convenience for the diagnostician and the stakeholders, not for the child. So the factors in pseudo-autistic diagnosis is something we have to look into. We means the professionals. Labeling is something avoid as much as possible. In fact, don't have it at all. And that too for helpless elements like children. Diagnosing elderly people or them also is one way not good. Diagnosing anybody is not good. But for that matter, diagnosis is made for our academic convenience, not for you label jars. You don't label people. But unfortunately, what happens is we end up labeling everybody, and including, and the children are growing. And in fact, many children come and tell me, "Sir, I am autistic. That's why I am behaving like this." Kya kiya jaye? Parents tell, no, my mommy only told me I'm having ADD. That's why I'm not sitting in one place. The boy tells me, and since I'm having attention deficit disorder, there's no other thing I can do but to like this one. Which means his self-image has grown into that I am having attention disorder and I'll continue to be like this. And I'm very proud of doing like this. And this will continue till many more years. Because what happens in childhood, you know very well the longitudinal effects of that.
Okay, so there was a small question. Any use of flashcards in this process, ABA for autism?
Yes, that is one of the teaching aids. And I told you, PEX is one system I told in my narration. PECS, Picture Exchange Program, is there. One of the forms of ABA where they exclusively use picture cards or extensively use picture card. Now, this is one type of AAC, alternative augmentative communication, we call it. And children with expressive language deficits, they are benefited more by that. But over reliance on that is also not advised. For a short time, correct. But start and end with using pictures only, and every time you can't be carrying pictures everywhere to show this is the toilet or that is the food I want. This is where so initially it is required in severely non-verbal children, very much required. But over a time, you have to again fade that and bring it to the other forms of verbal. Verbal
Okay.
expressions are much preferable than non-verbal.
Sure. Before Amrit starts setting me up, I will combine three questions into one. When to train or refer a child for ABA for autism? What are the contraindications, and how does one train in ABA form of therapy?
The most toughest question because you combined everything into one.
Yeah, because then Amrit will shut me up. He start punishing me. So
Because
I explained my questions through.
you repeat one by one because it's
Uh,
all
when do we train a child or refer a child for ABA? Child with autism.
when Chodiye, where you will refer is a question. Where will you refer? Every child has a potential ABA candidate for that matter. Not only autism, every unaffected child is also, every healthy child also is a candidate for ABA. Not only child, you and me, adults are also candidates for ABA, isn't it? Some of our behaviors are behaviorally managed like that. All of us are ABA candidates only. And still then, you should also see that the ABA candidature is there for every child. And but you must see whom you are referring, how qualified they are, what are the motives behind their practice, is money making the main practice. And as I told you, break every behavior into small, small parts, cut into small parts. Each small aspect of the behavior must be trained. Then go to the next in the chain. Then go to the third in the chain. It's a long, painstaking process. It won't happen in one day. I won't happen in 440 sessions, although the claims are there like that. If it comes also, what is the longevity of such claims? And the artificiality of the situation is very important. In a four-walled room with a therapist whom you see for just 45 minutes in a day, how long will that? And that too for Indian children, abroad may be a different scenario, I don't know. But at least with Indian children, a stranger is a stranger. And that too with a white apron, coat pen, agar aap baith jayenge samne, and you know how children behave. And that is one of the things that psychology we should avoid doing. I've been saying that for long. So you put on a white apron and stand in front of the or sit in the child and give therapy. That's the end of it. Children will run away from you. So we intimidate them by our presence, by all these things. And then we expect the child to cooperate. How will we cooperate? Do we take them to the park and play with them? Do that. Do your therapy in the park. Do your therapy when you travel in the bus. One form of ABA talks of this. One among the types of ABA I said, they mentioned this only. It should be done in live situation, not within the four walls of the room. Correct.
Okay. Okay. And sir, what are the contraindications? When should ABA be withdrawn or not applied?
If you don't find a big relief from that, that's the end of it. The customer is the king in this. Suppose the customer finds, despite spending so many thousands of rupees and so many sessions of time, and the use of the techniques is also, I told you, there have been in the name of ABA, lot of misuse has happened. I just gave a stray example, which is a real example, where they have used blanket therapy. They'll throw a blanket around the child's body and give a tight hug to him for some number of minutes in a session. Why, when we asked, they said that is a form of restraint, physical restraint they are using, I believe, for ADHD. Somebody said, we will not tell what is happening in the therapy. It's still happening in places like Mysore also, where you send them for ABA. The ABA specialist says, don't ask what we are doing in the therapy session. You just send him for 45 minutes like this for 3 weeks or 5 weeks, pay the money and go back. We'll just make him all right. And right in front of the therapist, they will be intimidated and be behaving well. After 2 weeks outside the therapy, again he will start the whole thing. then they'll
And
say
so,
that's a relapse.
sure. So what are the places to learn, and how does one get trained in this?
Where? Who? The therapist? Huh?
Yeah, for therapy.
Look for the official ABA sites. And in India, sorry to say, we do not have anyone certified one now, till today. And I have a doubt we'll not have also one till we have a system of reimbursement here. And sooner or later in the abroad, when this reimbursement system dies, which will shortly die, I'm foreseeing that in another 10, 20 years, when multinational companies stop reimbursing autism for ABA, then ABA will also die. What do you say on that? So it's a commodity created by some agencies. Suppose tomorrow there is some other form of animal therapy, or let us say horse riding therapy is given reimbursement in India by one company of horse riders. Then what happens? Horse riding therapy becomes very popular, and everybody will say hippotherapy is the best. Shall we not look into the political genesis of some of these treatment conditions?
Absolutely.
See,
Absolutely.
I'm raising all macro issues. I'm sorry. Maybe I am following a little bit of Shekhar Seshadri. We've been very close friends and discussing this again and again across so many times. He is also a believer in this. I'm sorry, I'm sharing his also without his permission. But I guess this is what is happening. Children are scapegoated. Anyway, think over it. Let's all think over it.
Absolutely. Sure, sir, sure. Amrit.
अमृत के लिए क्या बचा है? Already 9:30. I think we should hand it over to the chairperson.
Chairperson, then Tufan sir. Yeah.
Dr. Agarwal, please.
So thank you so much. It was very clear, very basic to understand, and very elaborate. So thank you for a wonderful presentation, Dr. Sanjay.
No, it was a wonderful presentation again. I do hope that ABA does not die down. I think it is an effective tool. Unfortunately, in India, the problem is the cost. We could do it in NHS because it was free. And in America, it's possible because of the Medicaid that they receive, and it is reimbursed. So hopefully, if we can have trained therapists in India, hopefully, you, sir, you start the training. You are an ABA therapist. So you start an institute where we can get proper ABA therapists. I think, and if we have mental illnesses now being covered by insurance, so if we can include ABA treatment in that, I think it can be a real game changer. It can, especially in India, where it's a struggle to deal with children. They are not integrated within the society. ABA can help not only in learning, not only in communication, but also in sort of integrating the child within the society. So if that can be done, it would be really a good thing. And I'm really glad that Thursday Musings has brought this up. Thank you again.
Tufan sir.
Good way of summarizing. I appreciate that. Correct.
Thank you very much, Dr. Venkatesan. Your presentation was very clear, very exhaustive, and totally enticing all throughout. Anybody listening to it cannot go away. And gives a very good impression about ABA, applicable not only to autistic disorders, but also to any child or even adults. But the cream question which was raised by Dr. Alim and admitted by you, where to refer and who will give that? That is of paramount importance. And I also do not subscribe to this view that we will wait for the insurance companies to compensate for that. That is not the way that medical treatment is given in our country. If there are so many government and national institutes, if they can start a BA and they can incorporate in the treatment regime by a really qualified people, then it will be popularized, and then one has to pay. One does not pay in the government institute, and there are quite plenty. So I will request you, Dr. Venkatesan and Dr. Sanjay also, because you are a proponent of this treatment, to see that people are trained who can go into such institutes, government institutes where it can be given. Many NGOs also give free of cost. So there are places where patients, people get free treatment. But who will give, that is the question. I was just Googling where you were talking. In our place, I saw 10 addresses. where ABA is given, they have written, and I know each one of them. And to the best of my knowledge, none of them is likely to be qualified in ABA. So that has to be passed up by Dr. Venkatesan and people like Dr. Sanjay Garu who are proponents. They can. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Over to Amrit.
Amrit,
The final thank you. I mean, it was a full house, sir. Srinivasan, sir. More than 500 logins, peak of 380, and that is huge numbers. We have a holiday weekend, and that shows the amount of respect people do, and the number of papers you have got, the number of publications. The way you spoke was absolutely brilliant. It was as if you were speaking not from the slides from your head. Everything was coming like this. And we will fix a second talk for you, sir, on parenting. That's what, there's a huge number of people who have texted me that we have to call, sir. And thank you for accepting our invitation to come at a very short notice. Thank you so much. Sanjay, sir, thank you so much for coming and chairing. Vivek, sir, it's a pleasure having you in our Thursday musings. And all the child specialists, were here. And that gives us a lot of pleasure, happiness. A lot of people learned a lot today, and we'll be going for micro. Today was just the general thing, and we'll be utilizing sir's expertise in making these topics into micro topics, and then maybe over a period of 6 to 8 months, we can use him 4 to 5 times, sir. If you agree, sir. So we will, Dr. Shekhar sir has also come a number of times, and he's your closest friend, so we would also expect that you should come a number of times. Thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you, Odisha Psychiatric Society. Special thanks to actually Rucha and Sharda, who have been insisting that we get Srinivasan sir on board. So that given it me that Amrit, you have to call him. So anyway, we managed to get you, sir. We'll hope to catch you again. Happy weekend. Happy Eid. Eid Mubarak tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Catch you again next week. This is an autism special month for us. And we had already had 3 lectures. We'll have a series of lectures running around. Good night, everybody.
One last request,
Thank you.
please.
Good night, everybody.
One
Last request, sir.
Yes.
Sir.
I have my friend here, Dr. Yashodhar Kumar. He is my colleague at AISH. He has been very helpful in finalizing this PPTs and helping me with all the technical support. I am not such a very IT savvy person. So he is there here with me, right next to me, although he is in the invisible shadow. But he is the one who has helped me to streamline this. I thank him also on behalf of all of you, and he has been very helpful in doing all this. Can you
Thank you all dignitaries.
Sir, please, can you see you? Can you just put on the camera for a second? I want to see him also. So thank you so much, sir.
thank you. Thank you
sir.
so much, sir.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
All
much.
the seniors, thank you so much, sir. It's
Yeah,
a
we
pleasure
thank you, sir.
to meet you, sir.
Venkatesh sir, if you want to share your email ID, many people are asking for it also.
Yeah,
And in the chat box, there are too many congratulatory messages for you.
Chat
also.
box, I'll type it.
Type it in the chat.
Sir, I do the same thing to Ali. He never acknowledges it, sir.
No, PSYCON. PSYCON India.
We have it, Alim. You can just type it. Otherwise, you type it.
Yeah.
I am typing in my icon PSYCON India at gmail.com. As simple as that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you. Meet you again.
Yeah, we have it now. So
It's in the
those
chat
who-
box, please.
they can
Those
pick
who
it up.
want it can take it and mail it to us.
Looking forward that you produce more and more ABA therapists.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also have a
And
YouTube channel. We also have a
is
YouTube channel
almost
now.
ready. So we have posted the link. Still some edits are going on, but you can view the recent sessions now because we were not loading it on the Facebook now.
Okay.
We'll put it on our YouTube channel. 138 episodes are there.
You can send that links and all to me. I will also popularize it. Send
Thank you so much, sir. We know how popular you are. We saw a lot of new
Oh, thank you.
people
Thank you.
today.
Welcome. Welcome.
Good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Nice being with you. Sir, end the session with your permission.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.